How's it going, everybody? My name is Rinzler here, back again for another video. Welcome back to another shoot video. As usual, shoot in this context means to tell the absolute truth about something and not to actually shoot nobody with a gun. Now, with that out of the way, something I'd like to discuss today is religion. But before I get into that, I'd just like to apologize because I know that in my last shoot video, my voice sounded a little bit off. Uh, so I want to apologize for that. I was battling an illness that I'm still not 100% recovered from, but my voice is feeling significantly better. So I'm hoping I'm sounding a little bit more like myself today. And another thing I want to apologize for is that my last video, my What If video for Gordon Freeman, I'm well aware that viewers of the What If series are probably confused because I said my next What If video is going to be about Mulan. Uh, I had pre-recorded the Gordon Freeman video because I had intentions of making a lot of Half-Life videos. I do plan on making more Half-Life videos, don't get me wrong, but I knew I was going to be out for the count for a little while, and I wanted to give you guys at least something to watch. So that's why the Gordon Freeman video got uploaded instead of the Mulan video, because I haven't recorded the Mulan video yet. Anyway, so with that out of the way, let's talk about religion. This was requested to me by somebody else. Nothing really sparked a particular interest in me to talk about this. It was just a request from a fan, a regular viewer of the channel, which I really appreciate. Uh, and another thing before I get into this is that as you all know, I've said in previous shoot videos that I don't care much for political correctness or euphemisms. I like to be very blunt and straight to the point. So there's definitely going to be a lot of things I say in this video that you might not particularly care for, especially if you're Christian. So just as a fair warning here, this is probably going to be my most controversial shoot video yet, and I'm definitely expecting to get a lot of negative reviews on this one. But as Eric Bischoff once said, controversy creates cash. So I'm going to apply that to YouTube and say controversy creates viewers. So I'm expecting this shoot video will get a lot of views, but probably a lot of negative outlook. So this is just my fair warning. I'm going to say a lot of things in this that you might not particularly care to hear, but this is just my perspective on things. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to start talking about religion now. Religion was not really a big part of my life for a while because I was not born into a religious family. My mom's side of the family was kind of religious, but like it was never forced on me or anything like that. It was never forced on my mom either. So my mom, she isn't like all that religious or anything like that. She doesn't go to church, so we never went to church growing up. I never went to Sunday school or nothing like that. I grew up as an atheist. Um, it wasn't until actually my sophomore year in high school I decided to become Christian. And I never actually officially became Christian. Like, I was never baptized, and I only went to church one time in my entire life. Besides one time I went to a funeral, but I was like an infant back then, so I don't really remember it. But anyway, so basically, something real bad happened in my house around that time in my sophomore year. It was like spring of my sophomore year, so that was about 2017, I believe, right? Yeah. I remember because this was right before I dyed my hair blue, and that was in 2017. Something really bad happened. I can't say what happened in this video because it ain't my story to tell. Just something really bad happened in the house involving an intruder and me feeling a lot of guilt. So we were going through a really troubling time, me and my family, and we had already just had a real, like, we just been dealt a lot of bad luck before, because like we'd had a fire at our house, and we lost family members and other family members had, just left. We'd had a lot of bad luck, and I'd made a lot of dumb decisions myself. So, this incident that happened with the intruder, that was kind of the last straw for me. Um, and I felt like I was about to go down a real rabbit hole that I couldn't possibly get out of, a rabbit hole of depression. Um, and I had just gotten over a really bad phase in my life, actually. So basically, I felt like I needed to feel like there was some higher power, some kind of higher authority that was keeping watch over things. So I didn't necessarily believe that there was somebody watching over me. I felt like I wanted to believe that at the time, that there was something watching over me because my family had just been dealt so much bad luck, and this incident with the intruder was just like the final straw. And I could tell I was about to sink down a real depression if I didn't feel as though something was watching over us, something, someone that cared for us very much. Uh, Somebody who couldn't always be there for us, but could be there for us when it mattered most. So I turned to Christianity because I watched the movie Amadeus, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a fictionalized account of Mozart's rise and fall, and spirituality is a big part in that movie. And it was actually Amadeus that inspired me to seek out Christianity as like a cushion for my depression. So so I never officially became Christian. As I said, I never went to church. I was never officially baptized or recognized as a Christian. But I did hang up a black cross on my wall. I wore a cross around my neck. I started praying before every meal. I prayed before I went to sleep and when I woke up in the morning. Uh, you know, so the more I did that, the more I genuinely started to believe that somebody may actually be there for us, because over the next few months, like, a lot of positive change started happening in my life. I changed up my look, I changed up my attitude, I started to be a bit more excited about the future. Like, I felt like I was full of positive energy. I finally felt like ever since I started worshiping that something was actually going on, like something positive, a positive change was happening. Um, I didn't believe in the Bible though. I never read the Bible because the thing with the Bible is that it's constantly getting updated by new authors, and you know what? It's all based on the original Bible, which was written a long time ago, but it's constantly being updated to apply to modern day standards. And who's to say that the author of that story isn't just adding stuff in that ain't supposed to be there? You know, who's to even say that God was telling, you know, priests or whatever to write this stuff down in Bibles? Who was saying that he ever did that? You know what I mean? So I was very skeptical about the Bible even when I was Christian, because I'm not Christian anymore, which I'll get to in a minute. Um, but um, but anyway, so I thought the Bible was, for lack of a better word, bullshit at that point. So I refused to follow the Bible, and I kind of considered myself only half Christian because of that, because I didn't read the Bible and I didn't go to church. But I still wore crosses and worshipped and believed. So I considered myself half Christian. And I know that there's going to be a lot of critics out there, just from what I've said so far. So bear with me, definitely. Um, so so I stayed Christian for a while, actually. I finally went to church for the first time in at the very beginning of 2018. It was the first Sunday of 2018. I finally decided to go to church. My girlfriend at the time, actually, she forced me to go. This was the toxic relationship that I've mentioned in previous shoot videos. The toxic relationship that I said took about 12 years off my life because it was just so bad. This was pretty much the tipping point that led to me and her breaking up. Um, because she really wanted me to go to church with her and her family. Um, and so I said that I would. And then on the way there, she told me that she would have broken up with me if I said I wouldn't go. And so that made me start to wonder whether or not she cared more about my beliefs than she did about me, if that makes any sense. So I actually did have a decent time at church, but I didn't go back there again because after I left church, I started to think about what my girlfriend had told me on the way, and I started to wonder whether or not me going to church with her was more important than, actually uh, just being me. You know what I mean? I felt like she was constantly trying to change me. She was constantly trying to change up my look. She was trying to force me to do things I didn't want to do. I had no problem with church. It's just like what she said. It stung. It really made me start to wonder if she genuinely cared about me or if she just cared about what I believed in. Um, so that actually ended up leading to me and her breaking up a couple weeks later because I'd had some serious doubts about her. I stayed Christian though, but I never went back to church. Um, and I went through a lot of downward spirals in the year that followed. I kept going in and out of depression, in and out of feeling suicidal. I got into a really great relationship with a girl who was an atheist, but she respected my beliefs. So that was all fine and dandy. That was really the best. I know I've mentioned this relationship so many times in shoots, but it really, really was the best relationship of my life. It was I had such a good time. During my months I was with that girl were easily the happiest in my teenage life. Uh, Genuinely thought I was going to be with that girl the rest of my life because me and her were just really happy together. But like towards the end of our relationship, we started to become more distant from each other, and we broke up in December of last year because we started to realize that things weren't going to work out, and that really broke my heart. I've mentioned in a previous shoot video that it took me several months to recover properly from that breakup. I kept asking out a lot of girls that I shouldn't have been asking out because I just felt like I need somebody to love me. I was like a lovesick puppy. I felt like I needed some girl to be there for me to fill the void. Even though it kind of was partly my fault that my relationship ended in the first place, because I wasn't doing nothing to change up the relationship because I was so stubborn about change. So I wasn't adapting really like I should have. Anyway, getting back to religion though. After my breakup with that girl, I started to doubt my beliefs. I started to think about everything that had happened to me and my family so far, like all the bad luck. The stuff with the intruder and the fire and the suicidal stuff and the depression, just so many bad things going on with me and my family. My mom has been having some serious medical issues for the last 7 years at the time of this video. And I've been, primarily responsible for a lot of her care. I've been taking care of my mom for a long time now. A lot of other people have as well. Don't get me wrong. My grandma's been there for my mom as well to try and relieve me some of my responsibilities, I guess you could say. But anyway, just one day I started to look back on all the bad luck, and I started to feel like God was never there for me. And I kept trying to tell myself that it was just because he was busy with everybody else in the world, everything else going on. But like, the more I thought about it, the more I started to realize that something ain't right. And then I sunk into another downward spiral that nearly led to me committing suicide again. It was so bad I was going to the point where I was walking over bridges and contemplating whether I should jump off them or not. Like I was really in a bad way. And then I watched this George Carlin video. George Carlin's a really funny comedian, but he also made some really good points about a lot of things that are wrong in the world. And he made a very popular speech about religion once. And he pointed out that there's a lot of stuff that's off about it that I didn't even think about. He was pointing out things like how the church pays no taxes. They're always asking for more money. They're always saying that that God loves you and stuff, even though there's a constant threat that he's going to send you to hell to suffer for all eternity. You know what I mean? So I started to realize that George Carlin was right about a lot of the things he was saying. And this combined with all of my doubts that because God had just not been there for me, at least that's how I felt. So I voluntarily decided to give up my Christian beliefs. So at the beginning of 2019, I took all the crosses that I owned and I threw them in the trash. Uh, which at the time was a very heavy thing for me to do. I remember shaking after I did it because I'd spent years at that point, like 2 years almost, with these beliefs. Trying to tell myself that God was going to be there for me. He was going to light the way. Um, and so becoming atheist again, that just made me feel even worse. My depression got worse because now I felt like everything I believed in was wrong. Um, then things started to get a bit brighter for me because I started to take mythology class at my school because at the time I wanted to write an epic fantasy novel and I wanted to make up religions for the book. So I wanted to gain some inspiration by researching other religions. So I started to research Hellenism, which is the belief in the Greek gods, the Olympians, and I had a lot of fun doing that too. The stories were real interesting to me, particularly the story of Perseus. I fell in love with the story of Perseus. That story is just really magnificent, even though there's some things really wrong with it. Um, there are some things that are really effed up about it. But anyway, or fucked up about. Why did I say effed up? This ain't a PG show. What am I doing? I'm sorry. Um, so, the more of the stories I read, the more interested I became in Hellenism. And then around this time, I rediscovered my love in the Percy Jackson books as well. And I started to actually really enjoy the Percy Jackson books now that I'd familiarized myself more with the myths. Um, and after I lost my faith in Christianity, I felt like I really needed something else to believe in. Like, because at this point I was so depressed, I felt like there was nothing I could count on, nothing to believe in, nobody that was watching out for me besides my immediate family. And they couldn't always be there for me because there was so many other problems going on in my household. So, I felt like I needed something else to worship. So I chose the Greek gods, which was a drastic change, I'm well aware. Going from believing in the Christian legends to believing in the Greek legends. You know what I mean? Like, not a lot of people had a problem with that, surprisingly. I was expecting a lot more people to call me like a traitor to my beliefs or saying I was crazy for believing in the Greek myths because they're called myths for a reason. But and at the time, I didn't truly believe in it per se. It just, I felt like I needed to have some kind of a belief in something, if that makes any sense. But the more I researched the legends, the more I wanted to believe they were true. Um, and you can say that that was clouded my judgment, maybe. But ever since I started to, focus my beliefs on the Greek gods, the more I feel like my, the more I feel like things are being responded to. Like I ask certain gods to light the way for me, and it feels like I'm actually getting more responses. I almost feel like ever since I started to believe in the Greek gods, that the reason that God wasn't answering me when I was a Christian was because he was offended that I was referring to him as one God, even though there are 12. So that's my way of thinking about it. Is the reason God wasn't answering me is because it was because he was offended I was referring to him as one person when there was actually 12 mighty Olympians. Um, so, in the months that followed, I started to believe in the Greek myths more and more. So now I believe in them completely, especially because I feel like they've been answering me more than the Christian God ever did. So now I feel a lot better about my religion. Like I have full belief nowadays. I I very much look up to a lot of the heroes in Hellenism. I look up to Perseus. I see him as a role model because he was just a very selfless hero who was trying to save his mother. You know what I mean? And my gods are not perfect, I admit. My gods are not always benevolent. Um, Hera was constantly trying to make Hercules' life a living hell, just because he wasn't her son. And Zeus, I believe, has kind of been a bit lusty, for lack of a better word. And Poseidon he's raped before. He raped Medusa, and then Athena turned her into a gorgon, even though she was the victim. So I'm not gonna lie, my gods are not perfect, but it's in my from my point of view, it's a little strange to say that gods are supposed to be perfect. I know that that's supposed to make them better than humans because humans are not perfect. But gods can't be perfect either. If gods were perfect, then there wouldn't be so many bad things going on in the world. That's my way of looking at it. So no, the gods are not perfect. Nobody's perfect. That's why there's so many different beliefs out there. And it's easy to criticize somebody for not having the same beliefs as you. It's easy to critique somebody like me who once believed in something different and now believes in something very, very different. You know, I don't believe there are many Hellenistics like me in the United States. I do believe that I'm one of the very few Hellenistics left in the US. Everybody else is in Greece. And even the people in Greece are like doubting it now, because nowadays the Greek legends are considered that legends, myths. People are not believing them as much, and I'm not telling anybody they have to believe in the same thing as me, because I know that's stupid. That it's stupid to tell somebody to believe in the same thing as you because it really should be up to that person to decide for themselves. And I've chosen to believe in the Olympians because I feel like ever since I started to believe in the Olympians, they've been there for me. They've given me some kind of direction. When I ask the Olympians what I'm supposed to do next, I usually get an answer. And if I don't get an answer, then usually I can interpret it in a different way. Like I asked the Olympians if they could lead me to a girl that loved me. And they led me to several girls who I thought loved me but didn't. And now I interpret that as them testing out my dedication and my patience and trying to teach me a lesson to not go after every girl. And so now I'm not going after girls and I feel better because of it. So it was a long term payoff kind of deal. So I just feel like the Olympians have been answering me more, if that makes any sense. And I really wanted to believe in Christianity. I really wanted to, but it's just the longer that I tried to tell myself that it was true, the less I started to believe it. If that makes any sense. Like when I first believed in it, I didn't actually believe in it, and then I started to believe in it more. But then more stuff started happening to me and my family, so I stopped believing in it as much. I just some there you'll catch me some days where I'm like where I start to wonder whether or not any of this is real, if this is all fake. And there are people out there, like I have a good friend who believes in every religion because he believes that every religion is actually the same religion, just interpreted differently. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that there's some truth to it, but personally, I just believe in the Greek gods. I think that ever since I believed in the Greek gods, that things have been easier for me to understand. That everything's starting to make more sense to me. Everything's starting to seem more practical because in Christianity, God is basically supposed to be perfect, but things in the world are not perfect. You know what I mean? So it just didn't add up to me. But when I started to believe in the Greek gods are never supposed to seem perfect. They've in all the legends, they generally make a big mistake, interfering quite a bit on humanity. Which is why I believe in the centuries that have since passed, they've stopped doing that as often because they were realizing that they were making some mistakes. So they stopped making the same mistake. They learned. So the gods can make mistakes, you know, um, because humans are supposed to be modeled after the gods. So if humans make mistakes, then gods should be making mistakes as well. I think that makes a lot of sense. And and honestly, it just makes more sense for there to be 12 rulers instead of one. 13, of course, if you count Hades. which I do count Hades. Don't get me wrong. But he's not technically an Olympian, so that's why I say 12 and not 13, if that makes any sense. He quite literally got the short end of the stick because in my religion, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, the big three, they actually drew lots over who would control what, and Hades quite literally got the short end of the stick. Um, so, you know, and none of my gods are perfect, but what makes it easier for me to understand is that it makes more sense to me that there's like 13 different people. There's 13 different gods, I should say, and they're all ruling. They're all in control of something different, and they can all display the same kind of emotions a human can. They can all be. They can all have love. They can be jealous. They can be angry, happy. They can feel all the same emotions that a human can. There's a different God in charge of so many different things, which makes more sense because if the gods are supposed to. Okay, so this is going to sound confusing. So the gods create humans in their image, and humans make mistakes, which means gods make mistakes. So if humans can't do everything at once. Like no human can handle like dozens, like hundreds of things at the same time. There's so many different things going on in the world that it just makes sense that there's like uh, you know, 13 major gods for the major things going on in the world and then there's a bunch of minor gods for the smaller things, smaller gods like Janus or whatever. So, there's just it just makes more sense to me that there's not one ruler who's deciding everything. That there's or two, because in Christianity there's God and the devil. But it makes more sense that there's many gods, major and minor, instead of just two, because there's so many different things going on, and I just don't think that two people could be able to decide all of that stuff. It just makes more sense to me. If that makes any sense to you, I mean. so, um, so yeah, that's basically the story of me in religion. I'm still Hellenistic to this day, which just surprises a lot of people. A lot of people expect me to be Christian if I'm religious because almost every white person in the United States who's religious usually chooses either Catholicism or Christianity. And so a lot of people are surprised when I'm neither of those things, nor am I atheist. When I tell people I'm Hellenistic, they're surprised, mostly because they don't know what that means at first. I have to explain it to them. And then once they learn, they don't usually freak out at me, surprisingly. I haven't actually been freaked out for believing in the Greek gods. Um, I don't think I've actually told, I think I only told one Christian that I believed in the Greek gods. My friend in high school, I told him that I was Hellenistic, and I think me and him never had an argument about it or anything. I calmly told him why I believe in what I believe in, and we agreed to respect each other's beliefs, and it was fine. Uh, Jehovah's Witnesses still knock on my door occasionally. I don't answer them because honestly, I don't want to have to play along, but I don't want to have to, argue with them either. I don't think religion is something worth arguing about. You believe in what you believe in. Uh, Everybody has different circumstances that lead to them believing in what they believe in. People want to believe in something. They don't want to believe that there's nothing else after you die. People want to believe that there's something else after you die. They want to believe that there's somebody out there that's looking out for all of humanity. People want there to be something out there to blame for all of humanity's misfortunes. I like to believe that the gods control a lot of things about the world. They, Gaia created the world, and the gods rule over it after they defeated the Titans. At least in my religion. Um, and they're responsible for everything being created, and they're responsible for maintaining a lot of what goes on nowadays. But I'd like to believe that human emotion has nothing to do with the gods. The gods created humanity, yeah, but humans have evolved on their own. Humans don't need the gods to evolve necessarily, at least in my mindset. Humans evolve because the world changes, because the gods do change things, but so do humans. The gods made the world to be a perfect place, and humans haven't always been able to preserve it. They've changed it. Everything changed. And it's just going to keep changing, which is why the Bible keeps getting rewritten, because it needs to be rewritten to, to apply to modern day standards. And you can take that with what you will, but I like to believe that humans change and adapt. They evolve based on the changes in the world that we create, that the gods sometimes change on their own, but generally they like to stay out of it because humans are really hard to control, even with the gods' direct interference. I mean, just look at the Trojan War. So, I like to believe the gods are there. They are watching everything play out, but they're starting to realize that humanity is really difficult to control. So they choose not to try and directly interfere in a whole lot of things. So humanity continues to change and adapt and get violent. Even on occasion we get violent. We go to war. There's a lot of things wrong with the world, but it's not necessarily up to the gods to fix those problems. They created the world, but it's up to humanity to maintain it for the most part. The gods do continue to look after us, in my opinion, but it is up to humanity to make sure that things don't go too wrong. Um, and depending on what you do good in your life, no matter what religion you believe in, I do hope that there is somewhere else for humanity to go. I hope that the people who do nothing but bad things in their life get what's coming to them. I do hope that people who do very generous things with their life get what's coming to them. I hope that no matter what you believe in, that you find some kind of peace when you die. No matter the circumstance, I'm hoping that there's somewhere for you to go and that it suits who you were during this life. So if you were a really bad person, then I hope that you go to Tartarus. If you're a really good person, though, I hope that you go to the Isles of the Blessed. And if you're somewhere in between and you go to Elysium, which is a never ending wheat field, basically, then I hope that you find some sort of peace with that as well. I, when I die, whenever I die, I've almost died a few times in my life because, again, I've been suicidal and I've been sick before. Very, very sick. That's a story for another shoot video. Um, I've come close to death myself. And I'm hoping that I go somewhere good. I'm hoping that I don't get sent to Tartarus. I've done bad things in my life. I've said some bad things, some things I really regret. Nowadays, I try to be as truthful as I can, but that's just because I want people to know the real me. I want people to know how I feel about things. And clearly, you guys care about how I feel about things because you guys keep watching these shoots. So, um, I hope that everybody goes somewhere that they're meant to go. I hope that it's not just blackness. I've heard that when people die, that nothing happens. Uh, People who have died for a second and then get revitalized, like through CPR or whatever, they say that they didn't see anything on the other side. I'm hoping that ain't true. I'm hoping that there is somewhere else to go. And just knowing that doing good deeds can mean everlasting peace in the next life has inspired me to try and do the best that I can during this life. And I hope that no matter what your belief is, that you try to be a decent human being, even if you don't think that you're going anywhere. I hope that everybody at least tries to be decent because this world is already so fucked up. Um, I admit that being an asshole is easier than being the good guy. All right, it's always easier to be mean to people than it is to be nice. Being nice to people when so many people in this world are assholes is not an easy feat. And everybody has their bad days. Everybody can have one bad day that leads to a life of trouble. But if you've got a good life, then I hope that lasts for you. And no matter what you believe in, I hope that you find some sort of peace in the next life. So thank you guys for sticking around. I know I said a lot of things. I got off topic a lot during this video. And I know I said some things that is going to step on some people's toes. Again, I'm trying to be blunt and truthful. I don't care for euphemisms or political correctness. I just try to be straight to the point. So if I offended some people, then, well, sorry for lack of a better word. I know sorry ain't going to cut it for everybody. But again, this is just my opinion on everything. So if you did enjoy this video, remember to give it a thumbs up. Share this video with all of your friends and family on all of your various social media platforms. And ring that notification bell. And I'll see all you dudes and chicks in the next video.